What's up, world? Hi. I am Jason Gotay, and I am so excited for this evening because I get to talk to some of my favorite people in the world. I'm a huge fan of Prospect Theater Company, and Cara is a dear friend of mine, and I am the Bandits on the Run's #1 fan and their friend, a little bit both, and my new BFF, Srđa, who directed this incredible piece. So excited to talk about this piece and how it came to be and hear a little bit about this amazing series. So I want to start with The Bandits and congratulate you on an incredible film. I've watched it a billion times today. I love it, and I can't wait to continue rewatching it and finding all of those glorious little gifts that you guys, put in there for us to discover later. But I just want to hear about you guys first. How have you been? Talk to me about what the last few months have been like for you guys. What are you working on, and how did this film play into your body of work and where you guys are heading?
Aw, shucks. Thanks, Jason.
We love you. This is great. Where do we start?
Yeah, I mean, it's been obviously been a not normal, wild year. So it all kind of started with all of our plans changing in March, like everybody else. And we ended up recording an EP in Washington. We did a cross-country road trip to Washington to record. And while we were in the midst of that, that's when we got the call from Cara about this project. And then it all happened pretty fast, and we ended up shooting it in September. And we wrote all the songs for it and the book for it. It's a big whirlwind.
We had never written a musical before, but it was something that we were definitely thinking about for a long time. And we were super lucky because we all got to quarantine together when everything shut down. We were on our way to tour to South by Southwest, and then just everything shut down. So we were doing a bunch of live stream concerts, and that's how Cara saw us sort of trying to engage with technology and live performance in a new way. And so that sort of opened up the conversation for, like, what if we did some sort of theater piece that is trying to incorporate all of these new things into this new world.
Yeah, so I think for us, and probably for many people, 2020 has been the year of the bold pivot.
Absolutely.
So we never before attempted to try to do something in this light, but also Prospect Theater Company had never made a film series before. So it was just a perfect marriage of not knowing what the hell we're going to do in this brave new world. On both ends. And so it really lucked out. And what was cool was that a lot of the things, because it came together so quickly, a lot of the things that are in the film are things that are kind of like themes from our year as Bandits. I mean, from the first moment we enter in the camper van, that camper van is the van that we
drove across the country.
Yeah. So. We were going to go into it was a loaner that we kind of ended up taking indefinitely for 2020 and made
Thanks,
Dad. That's so awesome. So all of you guys have a little bit of a background in theater or acting as well as music, from what I understand. So let's dive right into the piece. Where did the idea for the piece come from? How did it unfold? And talk to me about your creative process. You're three, as far as I'm concerned, you're three brilliant minds. So I'm sure all of you guys have ideas. So how do you, develop something together and bring together all of your processes? Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the idea for the piece just really mirrored real life, to be frank. A band at the end of the world in the apocalypse, going into an abandoned venue. I mean, that could not feel more truthful right now. And so a lot of what our journey was in crafting the stories and working with the songs is kind of our journey as a band, trying to find our way towards hope and connection, and trying to think, like what's next in this kind of new landscape. So in that way, I feel like we were pretty we've lived the same event, so I feel like it's, in terms of storytelling wise, it seems like pretty cohesive to have.
Right. Yeah, we lived the same event, but we've all and we've all went through a bunch of different, I guess, like stages of grief or whatever. So but I feel like those different aspects of how we've been feeling this year play into each of our strengths in different ways. Like there are 3 songs in the musical movie, and they were helmed by each of the 3 of us as sort of captains of each song. And, you know, like Regina's sort of has this like wistful, longing, like classic sound, and that was, what did we say that was, like disappointment, I guess. And then we move on to like the song that I helmed, which is more like angsty and sort of like weird and chaotic, which also speaks to 2020. And then Adrian's song is like a sort of hopeful, moving on sort of thing. So we all kind of assigned each of us like 3 ways of dealing with what we've been going through, and then applying that to the story in terms of like the just, I guess, more immediate storytelling. So
what's interesting is because of the tight window of development, we knew that we were probably going to be using stuff that was already in the works. And so like some of the feelings that we're channeling for this project really, like I feel like I keep going back to the first couple of weeks after the shutdown in late March, after our tour had been canceled. We kind of went off into a cabin in the woods and we holed up, and we decided to write songs, because if we weren't going to be able to tour and travel, then we might as well create something. And a lot of the seeds of the songs kind of came from that moment. So it wasn't too hard to fit those songs in the sense of longing and loss and wondering what we're going to do into the plot that we created, which was this band in a totally post-apocalyptic world, wondering how they're gonna how to search for hope in this new world.
Yeah. Oh man, there were just so many moments in there that just hit me so hard. Watching the dialogue in the beginning, right? Sydney, you saying, "I'm so tired of looking," right? Suddenly, like, registered with me in a way where I was like, "Wait, what is this about? Why does that feel like I understand that idea right now?" Right? Even though like I hadn't put together all the pieces of this story, right? And then Regina, your angel voice coming out of the darkness and that wistful melody that you break into all of a sudden. I mean, there's just so many moments that are so magical. So I want to dive to and Adrian, you're okay. Kidding. I'm your review. Okay. But I want to hear a little bit from the piece's director, Srđa, and I want to talk about, have you guys collaborated before? How did the piece fall into your hands? What were your impressions of it? Did you help develop the piece with the Bandits? Talk about how this relationship came to be.
Yeah, this has been such a wild experience, because the Bandits and I actually started off 2020 together. I was working on a musical about the subway. The Bandits were a big piece of. They actually opened the show, and it felt like, just a few months before this, we were all looking so eagerly to 2020, and it was like, here it was January, and we're like, this is the year big things are happening, things are changing. I've had the opportunity, and I will say the pleasure, of working with all 3 of the Bandits in different capacities over the past almost like 4 or 5 years now, that I have either seen them in auditions, seen them in performance, worked with them on workshops, worked with them staging and putting together concerts. And they are some of the most phenomenal, not only performers, musicians, instrumentalists, all of the above, but human beings that you will ever have an opportunity to work with. So for everyone who is watching this opening night premiere, please, please, please know the Bandits, get to know them, follow them on Instagram, follow their individual work, because they are just remarkable artists that deserve to be cherished in the capacity and what they bring to the art form. So saying that off the top, but yeah, it was
I completely disagree.
Yeah, exactly. It's don't tell anyone. I'm trying to keep it a secret so I can keep working with them. So you can't spread it too far.
Totally.
But yeah, I think something happened. Maybe it was like August or early September. But Adrian had texted me, and I had kind of a wild, we all had a wild summer, a wild spring, and I had been back in the Midwest with my family, and I'd actually started shooting films for the first time, because as a theater director, live performance didn't really exist. So I started playing around with the camera. I shot my first kind of short film in early July. And then Here we were in August, and Adrian was like, "Do you have any interest in working with us on a musical film?" And for me, it was a perfect opportunity. I wanted to work with Prospect for so many years, and I'm such a fan of the work that they do. And then on top of it all, Adrian started sending me photos of the Goodwill Theater, which was the space where we shot. And it is an architectural marvel. And it is someplace that you dream of when you're like a theater director in school, and they like show you photos of like the abandoned theaters from yesteryear, and you dream of the production of Medea or whatever you're going to put up in that theater. But it was that moment of seeing this incredible relic, and they sent me the script, and yeah, we developed it together. I have to say that the music was really kind of set in stone, and what we wanted to find was kind of that traditional musical theater language of how can the songs tell the stories, that we're constantly pushing the story forward, not needing too many book scenes, but really allowing this to be a musical tale told through music. So it was a lot of kind of trimming a couple of pieces here and there, figuring out where we needed those moments, what work the camera could do to kind of take the burden off of the script. And then also figuring out with the time that we have, a lot of it's logistics, the time that we have, what can we accomplish, what can we lose, and what can we gain from, a lot of times those things that you lose end up being things that you gain in the long haul. So yeah, we just kind of put four heads together. We sat on my rooftop in Brooklyn and drank a bottle of orange wine and came up with some ideas of what this musical film would become.
Cool. Oh man, so many things in there that I want to touch on, but I want to talk a little bit more about this space, this Goodwill Theater that I've never heard of this space, but you're right. Exactly how you described it. It was just so impactful, so powerful, the sight of it, and getting to explore all of the different parts of it were so amazing as a viewer. So for the Bandits and Srđa and Cara, please, let's talk about this space and how it fell into your laps. How did we discover the Goodwill Theater?
Cara, you get first dibs on this.
Sure. Okay, I'll jump in. So I'm lucky enough that as a director and with Prospect Theater Company, I have been able to collaborate with the Goodwill Theater for over 10 years now. But this was really the first time we got to go in the 100-year-old historic theater. And this is a project in a place called Johnson City, New York, which is about 3 hours away from New York City. It's just outside of Binghamton. And basically at the turn of the 20th century, it was sort of a boom town, and it was like a huge vaudeville stop. And in 1920, they built this theater to serve the community there. And basically by 1980, that part of New York State was in sort of, a lot of the industry left and closed, and it went into sort of an economic depression. And so this theater was closed up, and it sat empty for about 30 years. And what you see in the film, is the fact that it was sort of abandoned for a while and didn't have any art being made there. And then there were a group of citizens led by Nye McCragen, who's the executive director up there in Johnson City, who's rescued this space. And so basically they have started a renewal project to save this building. They have a small operating space that's right next door, which is sort of our home base, in an old firehouse that they've renovated. And so their goal is hopefully like in the next 5 years to be able to actually renovate this. I think it'll be eventually like a 700 or 800 seat proscenium theater. That'll be an arts and education center in upstate New York. So it's a really cool space. And when this whole pandemic started, of course, as artistic director of Prospect, I started thinking, what can we do? What's going to be the way that we can continue to be creative and serve our artistic community over the next time period? And I knew there was this beautiful theater that there are no seats for an audience in it. And so the only way an audience would ever be able to come into that space and experience it until it is renovated is through video and film. So the idea of artists in an empty theater that can't have an audience yet, but bringing audiences to meet artists in that digital space of film and video was exciting to me. And luckily the theater up there, the Goodwill, they were the most amazing hosts. They were really fantastic. So yeah, I would love to hear it was sort of part of my pitch to the Bandits when I thought about making a piece, if they were willing to do that. So I'd love to hear what inspired you about it.
Everything. The chance to make art in that space, it was such an honor. And I mean, you could feel when you walked in how much art was made there in the past, and you know, seeing all the dots on the ground, which is where all the chairs were, it's almost this like beautiful haunting feeling. And so when we sing You Have Changed, like, you know, we're talking about everything, but also we're talking very specifically kind of about the space, the theater, you know, it's like this beacon, this place of what's the word I'm looking for?
Gathering. Celebration.
This very sacred space has changed.
It feels a lot like
Absolutely.
like live performance right now, because if you're a sane person, you can't really do it in front of a huge audience. And so like we're all struggling to find ways to deal with that feeling of decay and everything having changed. And it really does. I mean, like, we've always wanted to do something that was real theater-y and like situational and location based, but like walking into that building for the first time, it was like there were so many ideas that we had. It was like we had this 15-minute-ish musical to fill, but like I feel like we could have gone for like we could have made an hour-long thing. Because there were so many cool different rooms, from like the basement to the projection room in the back, that were just so fruitful. They just seemed so cool.
And it really is evocative of, it's almost like a, what's the word? Like a ubiquitous feeling of like being in an old theater. Like, it was funny, after we visited the theater and like the time leading up to when we started shooting, I had like a bunch of recurring dreams about my old community theater, like back here, back in Hickory, North Carolina. Like, there was something about that I don't know, connects you to like the first time that you were connected to a theater. So sort of exploring that was really cool.
And we really wanted to honor that tradition. And so actually, like, we ended up creating a sound cue that happens as we're walking into the theater. That's kind of like, it has a narrator talking about like the history of the Goodwill Theater in as much as 15 seconds. But it's really important for us to be like, to locate it as the Goodwill Theater.
And like nod to it specifically as the place where this is happening.
But it was really exciting to take all these pictures and send them to Srđa, because Srđa immediately, like, as much as someone can light up in text format, was like,
and I'll say the thing that's so interesting is when you watch the film, you're probably only seeing at most maybe 30% of the theater. There are so many other rooms, hallways, backstage spaces, you know, and it's all like we were saying, there's so much life there, although it's an abandoned space. And I'm going to be really excited to see the rest of the Vision series, because I think that it's going to be incredible to see how this space is explored, not only by other directors, but by different artists. And there's so much to take inspiration from. And I think it's a really incredible opportunity for, you know, like we said, if you walk into this space and it can kind of become anything, and it has that original magic of what we love when we walk into an old Broadway house, when we walk into our community theater from home. It just has that thing that makes it makes it feel like magic can come to life.
Totally. I love you referencing that lyric, Regina, that you have changed, right? And thinking about it, how you're singing to the space and how it's evolved over time, and all of the memories and all of the life that's happened there. That lyric really hit me, and that image of you kind of standing by that ghost light, right? Almost singing out, "You have changed, you have flown away, how can I live without you?" To me, it reminded me so much of missing the human connection of performing in a space with other people, making music and rejoicing in our art with other people. Do you want to speak a little bit more to what those lyrics mean to you? And I'm sure they can apply to a million things, but talk to me a little bit about how the song speaks to longing for that connection again.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, that I think that everybody during this time has really lost something, and if not many things, you know, and whenever I say that, instantly in your brain, you'll know what that means to you. And what that means to us is we've lost a sense of predictability of when we're going to be able to do what we love to do, because in the end of the day, like, the reason why we're a band is because we love to connect with people. And what happens when we can't see those people anymore live? Like, how are we gonna find a new way of operating. And so as we're transitioning away from that, you know, it is a real loss. It is a real a moment of grief to say, all right, what we did before, we can't do again. And now it has to go to the past. So I think, you know, like singing the chorus of that song, it really is, and during how, from the beginning to the end of the song, it's about processing that it's gone. You know, there's this sort of like recognition that it's changed, and then there's the second part to say we have to move on from that. And I think that flows into radio and Reach Back, because I think that explores, okay, now that we're searching for something new, you know, how do we feel about that as well?
Now what?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. What next? Hey, Cara, how did you connect to the Bandits? How did you find them? How did they come to you? Can you just talk about that, and what inspired you to commission them to create this piece?
Sure, absolutely. So I had the privilege of working with Sydney about, 3.5 years ago. There's a show that I did called Illyria, and Sydney, we were doing an actor-musician version of that, and Sydney came in and played the central role of Viola. That was my first encounter, and it was like a 2-week workshop, and at the end, I think, you know, or maybe like the final weekend, you guys were doing a set with your band downtown, and you invited the whole cast. And I was so bummed I couldn't go. A bunch of the other cast members came back the next day and were like, it was so amazing, you missed it. But she gave me a CD. And so like after that,
cool.
I just was like listening to that. I think it was your first recording. And I was like, wow, these are really great songs. Like they're really, you know, because a lot of actors are like, yeah, I'm in a band. But like, Sydney was like in a band, and it was really awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of planted a seed in my mind. And I, you know, I've sort of been following you guys on your social media and Facebook. And then right about the time we were starting to really commit to moving in the direction of these films, your most recent EP came out, and you were doing a live stream Facebook concert. And I happened to see it, and I just enjoyed it so much, and I thought it was so inventive. And so it was sort of a happy accident that, you know, I think in this time when we are changing and thinking about like, well, what can we do? You know, you just kind of have to open yourself up to what the universe is going to remind you of. And so what I got to see at that moment in my like pandemic, you know, lockdown in my apartment looking for entertainment on Facebook Live was you guys. And so I think like a day or two after that, I reached out once we knew we had the venue possibility.
So cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Srđa, I want to. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The live stream that Cara tuned into was shot right here.
Oh, get out!
Yeah, Hickory, North Carolina has been Bandits HQ Southern Edition. Here.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time at my mom and stepdad's house, making music and videos
and other fun things,
food and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, Michael and I, my partner and I, we've tuned into about 95% of the live streams that you guys have done, and you guys just do an amazing job with them. Like being in the presence of the Bandits is such a special thing, but the way your chemistry and the way you interact with us in these live streams is it's palpable, the energy, and that's a really, really hard thing to do. So we're so grateful for those. Keep them coming. I want to talk to Srđa for a second. I'm like totally amazed that you're just kind of recently exploring film directing. That's like blows my mind a little bit. So can you talk to me about what your experience has been, mainly the work that you've done, and what were some of the challenges of kind of exploring this new medium through this piece?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that it's the challenge of how do you take your theatrical skill set and apply it to film? How do you not lose the thing that you've spent years kind of curating and cultivating about yourself, and that makes your directorial aesthetic what it is? I feel like the moment you switch mediums, it's like this question of like, do I actually know what I'm doing? Because I don't know what this term is, I don't know what this word is. But then you kind of like rely back and you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I know how to work with performers. I know how to stage. All these things make sense. Right. It's just adding a new layer. And one of the things I've really been exploring and thinking a lot about which you'll see in the film, is like the first, essentially from when the moment the Bandits walk into the theater, essentially the entire first sequence, the entire first song is one shot. So as we all know, as stage performers, stage actors, directors, we tend to think of things in one shot because we get one go at it. It's like one evening at the theater, and things have to go right. Things have to land in the right spot, and we're used to it. It's something that's built into us. But on film, there's a tradition. We like to cut quite a bit, and we'll cut in between things, and we'll choose the best take. But there was something about capturing that kind of raw, authentic, theatrical sense from the moment they walk into the theater, of creating a sequence which is all one shot and is fully theatrical and is fully staged, and there are no cuts to it. So that's something I've been exploring in my own work as a film director, is like, how can I create something which is long form, which doesn't have cuts, which works in the way that we tend to work on stage, but works in the film format. And then the next song, you'll see, so I've done a couple of music videos in the past as well. So like the first song is kind of this like ode to the theater. The second song is very much so like a musical theater, like a music video world. So it feels very much like a music video. It's high energy, kind of like pushes the story along. And then our third song is very much so narrative driven. So I'm assuming that everyone has seen the film if they're watching this post premiere. But like as they make their way through the theater and through the different spaces, it's really about capturing a journey and capturing a narrative. So it's kind of like three different versions of how to how to put a song on screen.
Mm-hmm. Cool. It's so well thought out, and the way it evolves, and everything is so clear, but it also feels abstract in a lot of ways, which I think is it's a very fine line, right? That balance is really hard to find, to allow me as the viewer to kind of put some pieces together and take from it what I will and connect to it however I'm going to, but also create something that has clarity and feels totally cohesive. So y'all nailed it.
And a huge shout out, I have to say, a huge shout out to our cinematographer and editor, Bart Dillingham, who's fantastic. Another person everyone should look at. Also comes from a background of the theater, so we love a theater artist who, who graces the film with their skill sets.
Another fun fact, we actually, the three of us and Jason worked on a project with Bart earlier this year, which was our Love in the Underground music video.
Yeah.
Which is also incredible.
And I also just want to shout out that we had a fantastic theatrical design and production team working on this as well. We our production project manager Josh Cape, and then our designers Leanne Arnold, who did the production and projection, Adam Honore, who did the lighting, and Marian Gomez Villota, who is the sound designer and audio engineer. So they're it was really a team of theater folks working in a new medium and learning, and with some great leadership and great creatives behind the scene who had a beautiful story in their hearts and minds. So thank you guys for that. Yeah. And thank you, Jason, so much for hosting this and being one of our first audiences for the Vision series films.
Oh yeah, huge fan of everyone here. Just because I dream of a Bandits musical, I want to hear a little bit about like where is your work going? Can we expect to see more in this genre? I mean, can you speak to what comes next for Bandits on the Run? And can we see more things like this? Also, can you write a musical? Cara, can you produce it? Can I come see it? Just give me what I need. Talk to me. Tell me everything.
There are many things on the horizon. Definitely, actually, one of the great things about working with Prospect is that you've given us a shot, like our first shot in this medium. Mm-hmm. So we can't thank you enough, Cara, because you really, I think this is a new frontier for us that a lot of people are excited about.
Yeah, and I think what we do and who we are in our, I guess, genre is kind of hard to describe. So to have something like what we made with Prospect to be like, this is the sort of thing we could do if we would do a musical, can really, will be really helpful. And it's actually funny, another director, Brandon Ivey, who worked with Prospect a long time ago, like we sat in a room with him like 3 or 4 years ago and we're like, what if we wrote a musical? How would we do it?
Yeah.
So it's like we've been thinking about doing things like this for a while, and I think this like now was sort of the time for us, for our voices to be like tuned in storytelling in that way. So I don't know. I mean, we have a lot more songs that we're really excited to release, and we love making video, and like we want to do more like storytelling videos. So I think I don't know how that could segue into musicals, but I mean, we all love this medium.
There's a band that's kind of like they're mentors, I would say, of ours called Pigpen Theater Company.
Yeah.
And they blend the art of musical performance and concert really seamlessly with puppetry and visual storytelling
and performance
in a theater format.
And now they're also writing like as just writers, you know, and so like I think that would be a cool thing for us to explore too, because we know our own voices and our own instruments, and like first we want to do a Bandits and then maybe we'll write a musical that's not about us or not for us, and then we'll just like see where that goes, you know.
But I've always
I think that because this time is so insane, it's opened up a lot of possibilities, and like we had a blast working on this project, and so I think we'd love to continue to work on projects like this, and maybe even this one, maybe what happens when the doors open and we meet the light man. I don't know.
But Jason, just for we'll work on a one-man Bandits on the Run show. You're gonna have to learn how to play cello and guitar and accordion.
Yeah. So
done.
Just
my dream. That's it. I'll start practicing tonight. That's so awesome. Yeah, I mean, you guys you're capable of anything. You do all the things individually, and then you guys come together, and it's brilliant. This has been amazing. Thank you guys for having me. I love the film so much. I can't wait for everybody to see it.
Thank you,
Jason.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
To us to have you here.
This was a really special experience, and for everyone at Prospect, thank you guys for giving your creativity, and we're here to hopefully like keep a platform alive for artists to keep telling stories, singing songs, bringing joy to the world during this time. So thank you guys for being a part of that, and thank you again, Jason, for hosting and talking to us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Cara.
Cool. And if you watch this, tell your friends. It's free. It's on YouTube. It's accessible. Yay.
Yay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.